All right, so let's practice factoring these polynomials, and I would encourage you to pause the video with each problem, see if you can work it out, and then unpause the video and see if you have it correct. So our first expression is 12x plus 28y, and I want to factor this. I want to write this as a product. I want to write it as something times something else. So the first thing I want to do is look at these numbers, 12 and 28. So what can I divide 12 and 28 by? What is the greatest common factor? Well, if I think through my factors of 12, I have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. And which of those numbers would also evenly divide 28? Well, 12 isn't going to work. Next one down would be 6. 6 isn't going to work for the 28. And the next factor down would be 4. And we got a winner. 4 would evenly divide both 12 and 28. So we can factor out a 4 here. And with the variables, these are different variables. So in terms of the variables, I can't pull out anything. So even though I could pull out an x from this first term, I don't have any x's over here. Even though I could pull out a y from this second term, I don't have any y's over here. I have to have the variable show up in both of my terms, or if I have more than 2 terms, all of my terms, to be able to write it out here as part of my greatest common factor. So my GCF is 4. So now I'm thinking 4 times what would give me 12x plus 28y. So 4 times 3 would give me 12. And then with the x here, I got to do 4 times 3x. And of course, the other way to think of this is 12x divided by 4 would give me 3x. 4 times what would give me 28y? Or 28y divided by 4 would give me what? And in this case, that would be 7. So in factored form, oh, don't forget the y. I have a y right here. Be very careful there. I almost forgot the y. But it would be 4 times the quantity, 3x plus 7y. And actually, me almost forgetting that y reminds me to tell you, always make sure you distribute your factor here and make sure that it matches up with your original. 4 times 3x is 12x. 4 times 7y is 28y. So my factored form is 4 times the quantity, 3x plus 7y. Let's take a look at another example. In this problem, we have 18x minus 42y. And this one here, now you don't have to know all the different ways to think through these, but I just want to share different ways, and you can kind of pick what works best for you. And this one, I'm going to use this area model. So if I have 18x minus 42y, what I need to do is I need to put my GCF right here. So what is my greatest common factor between 18 and 42? So, start kind of thinking through your factors here, and maybe the number doesn't jump out at you right away. And if it doesn't jump out at you right away, maybe do a factor tree and look at these numbers in factored form. So 18 is 2 times 9. 9 is 3 times 3. So the 18 in factored form would be 2 times 3 times 3. And with the 42, when I look at 42, I think 7 times 6. When I look at 6, I think 2 times 3. So the 42, the prime factorization of 42 would be 2 times 3 times 7. And let's multiply. Let's figure out what's in common here. So notice I have a pair of 2's in common. I have a pair of 3's in common. So this 18 can be written as 6 times 3. The 2 times 3 is 6, and there's my leftover factor of 3. And the 42 can be written as 6 times 7. So my greatest common factor is this 6 right here. So I'm going to be able to factor out a 6. I can do 18 divided by 6. I can do 42 divided by 6. Just like the last example, I have different variables here, so I can't do anything with the variables. And 6 times what gives me 18x? That would be 6 times 3x. 6 times what gives me negative 42y? That would be negative 7y. So 8x minus 42y in factored form can be written as 6 times the quantity, 3x minus 7y. Let's take a look at one more for this video. We have 12x plus 42y. So what is my my largest number that would evenly divide both of these? And you might have to think about it a little bit. Maybe think through your factors of 12. Would 12 is a factor of 12. Would that evenly divide 42? And the answer is no. Next one down would be 6, and we got a winner. So let's basically factor out a 6 here. When I factor out the 6, I'm really dividing both of these by 6. So I'm going to put 6 out here, and 12x divided by 6 would be 2x, and 42y divided by 6 would be 7y. So the factored form would be 6 times the quantity 2x plus 7y. Distribute, make sure it works. 6 times 2x is 12x. 6 times 7y is 42y. And one more thing here. Let me show, I haven't showed you this yet. So with this 12x, realize that I can write that as 6 times 2x. And this 42y, I can write as 6 times 7y. And so basically I just rewrote these where, I'm writing it as a product and one of my two factors is my greatest common factor. So being that I can write both of these as 6 times something, I can pull out my 6. And whenever I factor out that 6, what's going to be left here? This will be 2x. And this will be 7y, and bring my plus sign down. So 6 times the quantity, and let's make this a little bit neater. I apologize about my handwriting here. 6 times the quantity 2x plus 7y. Now, one more thing I want to point out that I have not mentioned yet, because sometimes this will happen to students. Sometimes students will look at this 12x plus 42y, and maybe they won't see the greatest common factor right away. Maybe they won't see the 6. So maybe I'll have some students that see this 12x plus 42y, and they're like, you know what? Those are both even numbers. Let's pull out a 2. So now I have 2 times the quantity, and when I factor out a 2, this would be 6x. 2 times 6x would give me 12x, and half of 42 is 21, so this will be plus 21y. So the 2 times 21y gives me 42y. And make sure that you don't stop here if this is how you think through this problem. You always want and you always need, and when you factor, you want your GCF or greatest common factor. So you have to look at your expression and make sure that you cannot pull out anything else. So if I'm looking at this 6x plus 21y, you need to be thinking to yourself, well, there is a number that evenly divides both 6 and 21. The number 3 evenly divides both of these. So let's pull out that 3 on this next step. So let's bring this 2 down. Okay, so that's right there. And then we're going to pull out a 3 from this. And whenever we pull out extra stuff, we're going to have to multiply by our factor that we already pulled out previously. And 6x, so 3 times what would give me 6x? That would be 2x. And 3 times what would give me 21y? That would be the 7y. So notice that this piece right here, so let me color code this to be very clear. This 6x plus 21y is the same thing as 3 times the quantity 2x plus 7y. And then you want to go one more step here and actually multiply these factors out here, and you would have 6 times the quantity 2x plus 7y. So this is another idea here. If factoring is a weakness for you, maybe do it in baby steps. If you can see anything that you can pull out, pull that out and rewrite your expression here, and look at your new expression, your expression with smaller numbers, and see if maybe you can pull out a little more. And you can do this in baby steps, and maybe it'll be easier for you. Just make sure that you multiply these values out here.